I want you to take a second and just imagine something for me.
Okay.
Close your eyes if you have to. I want you to picture yourself stepping into a professional boxing ring for the very first time.
Oh, wow. Terrifying.
Right. You are standing in your corner. Your hands are wrapped tight in gauze and tape. The canvas under your boots is hard, completely unforgiving.
It's not a trampoline, that's for sure.
Exactly. The lights above are blindingly bright, generating this intense heat right on your shoulders. Outside the ropes, the crowd is roaring. It's just this chaotic wall of sound.
Yeah.
And directly across the ring, staring a hole right through you, is an opponent whose sole objective for the night is to render you unconscious.
Which is a lot to process.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, usually when we hear stories about professional athletes making their debut in that kind of, adrenaline-fueled environment, we picture a teenager.
Right. We picture a 19-year-old prodigy.
Exactly. Or maybe someone in their early 20s who has been entirely consumed by the sport punching heavy bags since they were barely old enough to walk.
Yeah, the kids who basically grew up in the gym.
But I want you to imagine stepping through those ropes into that visceral, violent reality, not as a hungry teenager, but at nearly 30 years old.
I mean, it completely shatters the deeply entrenched sports narratives we've all internalized, doesn't it?
Total.
When you are staring down the barrel of 30 in any professional athletic endeavor, but specifically in combat sports, the conventional wisdom dictates that your window has completely closed.
Right.
The story we are told is that your physical prime is either already in the rearview mirror, or the sand is running through the hourglass so fast that making a meaningful impact is statistically impossible.
Yeah.
Entering the professional boxing ranks at that stage requires a level of self-belief that most people would categorize as totally unreasonable.
And that completely unreasonable self-belief is exactly what we are exploring today. We are unpacking the Wikipedia page of a fighter who looked at that conventional wisdom, scoffed at it, and proceeded to forge one of the most unique legacies in modern combat sports.
It's such a great deep dive.
It really is. We are talking about the incredible Carolina Raquel Duer.
Yes.
Now, if you are deeply embedded in the boxing world, you might know her by her monikers. She goes by La Turca or the absolutely brilliant Iron Barbie.
Such a great name.
We are looking at a fighter who ultimately racked up 29 professional fights, secured 20 wins, and captured world championships across 3 different weight classes.
Which is astounding on its own. But what makes her story elevate from just, a great sports trivia answer into a profound case study is the context of who she is outside the ring.
Right.
This isn't just a linear narrative about training camps and weight cuts and title belts. It is a masterful study of intersectional identity.
Yeah, that's the part that really hooked me.
We are looking at an Argentine woman of Syrian descent who is deeply rooted in the Jewish community. She navigated these profound ancient cultural backgrounds while simultaneously bleeding and sweating in a world of professional prize fighting.
It's wild.
She shattered every arbitrary timeline the sports world tries to enforce, and she did it while representing a crossroads of culture and faith that you almost never see under the arena lights.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because we really have to start at the absolute beginning.
Yeah, we do.
To really understand the grit it takes to become a multi-division world champion, you have to look at the soil she grew from. Carolina was born on August 5, 1978.
In Buenos Aires.
In Buenos Aires, Argentina. And her background is this beautiful, complex tapestry. She is the daughter of Syrian immigrants.
Right.
Which makes her part of the Argentine Syrian Jewish community.
What's fascinating here is we really need to pause and appreciate what that specific community looks like in Buenos Aires.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Well, Argentina has one of the largest Jewish populations in the Americas, and the Syrian Jewish diaspora within that is incredibly tight-knit.
Right.
There is a massive emphasis on tradition, on family enterprise, on cultural preservation. Carolina was deeply embedded in those traditions from a very young age.
Yeah, the sources say she attended the James Najman Bialik Primary School in Buenos Aires, which is a Jewish day school.
Exactly. And she was an active participant in the Maccabi Club.
Now, for listeners who might not be familiar with the Maccabi movement, what does that represent in this context?
So the Maccabi movement is this international Jewish sports and community organization. It's essentially the hub of athletic and social life for Jewish youth in many countries.
Yeah.
It's where you go to play basketball or soccer and really connect with your heritage. So she was an athlete early on, but within this very structured, community-oriented environment.
Right.
Furthermore, she celebrated her bat mitzvah at the Iona Hebrew Center, which is a noted conservative synagogue in Buenos Aires.
I have to jump in here because I've been to conservative bat mitzvahs.
Yeah.
They are beautiful, deeply spiritual, traditional ceremonies.
Yeah.
But they do not exactly scream, next stop, Madison Square Garden for a 10-round bloodbath.
Exactly. The juxtaposition is completely jarring. If you trace the trajectory of a young girl growing up in a traditional immigrant community, attending a conservative synagogue, learning Hebrew, participating in the Maccabi Club,
Yeah.
the expected path is usually higher education, family business, perhaps a traditional profession. It rarely, if ever, leads to a boxing gym in Buenos Aires.
Yeah, that's quite a pivot.
There is a profound tension between the quiet devotion of her religious upbringing and the chaotic, visceral reality of a boxing ring. And yet, she didn't abandon one identity for the other, she synthesized them.
And you see that synthesis perfectly in the aliases she adopted when she started fighting. Let's talk about the nicknames, because they are iconic.
They really are.
First, you have La Turca. Now, in many parts of Latin America, individuals of Middle Eastern descent, whether Syrian, Lebanese, or otherwise, are colloquially referred to as Turco or Turca.
Because early immigrants often arrived carrying passports from the Ottoman Empire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some might see it as a reductive label, but she completely owned it.
Yeah.
She walked to the ring as La Turca, wearing her Syrian heritage like armor.
It's an aggressive reclamation of her identity. By claiming La Turca, she forces the boxing world and the Argentine public to acknowledge exactly where she comes from before the opening bell even rings.
But then she has this other nickname that I am just obsessed with.
Iron Barbie.
Iron Barbie. Just think about those two words slammed together.
Yeah.
You have Barbie, this ultimate, almost stereotypical symbol of conventional, pristine femininity. And it's attached to iron unyielding, cold, industrial, unbreakable.
It's a masterclass in psychological framing. Nicknames in combat sports aren't just marketing tools. They dictate how an opponent perceives you.
Oh, for sure.
If you walk in as the assassin or the destroyer, you are leaning entirely into the violence. By adopting Iron Barbie, she is forcing everyone to deal with cognitive dissonance.
I love that.
She is essentially telling her opponents, I refuse to abandon my femininity to exist in this violent space, but do not mistake my femininity for fragility. I will break you.
Wow.
It forces you, as a spectator, to confront whatever subconscious biases you might have about what a female combat athlete is supposed to look and act like.
And she wasn't just a catchy nickname either.
Yeah.
She was an absolute terror in the amateur ranks. Let's look at her amateur record because it sets the stage for everything that follows.
Let's hear it.
She fought 20 times as an amateur.
Yeah.
She won 19 of those bouts.
Yeah.
19 out of 20.
That statistic is staggering. But let's break down what an amateur boxing career actually looks like, especially in Argentina, because it's very different from the pros.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Amateur boxing is about scoring points. You are wearing headgear. The rounds are shorter, usually 2 minutes instead of 3 for men, though women's rounds are often 2 minutes across the board anyway. The gloves have more padding. The objective isn't necessarily to knock the other person out, it's to land clean, undeniable strikes that the judges sitting at ringside can easily see. It's a game of physical chess played at lightning speed.
So to go 19-1 in that environment, what does that actually require? Is it just raw power?
No, raw power gets you disqualified or outpointed in the amateurs.
Really?
Yeah, because if you're just headhunting, a smarter, faster fighter will pepper you with jabs and rack up the score. Going 19-1 means her fight IQ was off the charts.
Go ahead.
It means she understood distance, pacing, and defensive responsibility better than almost anyone she faced. She wasn't just surviving the chaos, she was managing it.
Managing the geometry of the ring?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that discipline is crucial. You don't get to 19 wins without spending thousands of hours doing the unglamorous work.
Right.
Jumping rope until your calves cramp, hitting the speed bag until your knuckles bleed, sparring against different styles.
So she has this incredible pedigree, this near-flawless amateur run, and then she decides to take the headgear off, drop the padding from the gloves, and turn professional.
And this brings us back to that staggering fact we teased at the start.
Yes. She turns pro in 2007, born in 1978, turning pro in 2007. Doing the math.
She was 29 years old.
29. Now, we touched on this briefly, but I really want to press you on this. Is 29 actually biologically too late to start boxing, or is that just an entrenched sports myth she happened to expose?
It's a combination of biological reality and systemic sports bias. Let's look at the biology first.
Okay.
Boxing is one of the most anatomically demanding activities a human being can undertake. When you hit your late 20s, your cellular recovery time naturally slows down.
Right.
The micro-traumas in your joints take longer to heal. Your fast-twitch muscle fibers, the ones responsible for explosive speed and reaction time, begin a very slow, natural decline.
So you're fighting an uphill battle against time.
Exactly. Most fighters want to front-load their careers in their late teens and early 20s because they can recover from a grueling 8-week training camp in a matter of days. At 29, your body holds on to the inflammation. The aches stay with you longer.
So she's fighting her biology from day one.
She is, but it's also the systemic side. Promoters want to invest in a 19-year-old because they can build them up over a decade.
Sure, it's an investment.
If you walk into a promoter's office at 29 with 0 pro fights, they look at you as a liability. They assume you have maybe a 3-year window before your body breaks down.
Wow.
So she wasn't just fighting her opponents. She had to fight the skepticism of every trainer, manager, and promoter in Buenos Aires who looked at her driver's license and said, "Thanks, but no thanks."
And the incredible thing is, she actually silences the doubters right out of the gate.
She did.
She makes her pro debut in September 2007 against a woman named Agustina del Valle Ibar. It's a 4-round fight, and Duer wins it by unanimous decision.
A solid start.
Then, just 3 months later, in December, she fights Ibar again and knocks her out in the 3rd round. So she's 2-0. The late start doesn't seem to be a problem at all. She's the Iron Barbie. She's unstoppable.
But professional boxing is a notoriously cruel teacher.
Yeah.
Just when you think you have it figured out, the sport introduces you to a new level of suffering.
And that suffering arrives in 2008. If 2007 was the dream, 2008 was an absolute nightmare.
Let's look at the data for that year.
Right. On August 8, 2008, she travels to Club Huracan in Tres Arroyos to fight Yvonne Anahi Cordoba. It's a 4-round fight, and Carolina loses by unanimous decision. All the judges saw her losing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, a unanimous decision loss early in your career is a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It means there was no controversy, no bad judging, no lucky punch. You were simply outboxed for 12 minutes. You have to go back to the gym and completely reevaluate your fundamentals.
So she goes back to the gym. She tries to correct the errors. Less than 2 months later, on September 27, she steps back into the ring against Natalia del Pilar Berga, and she loses again. But this time, it's a majority decision loss. I want you to explain that to the listener because the terminology here is so important for understanding how agonizing this must have been.
In professional boxing, there are 3 judges scoring the fight at ringside. A majority decision loss means that 2 of those 3 judges scored the fight in favor of your opponent, but the 3rd judge scored it a dead-even draw.
So she didn't get blown out. She was literally on the razor's edge.
Exactly. It is arguably more agonizing than getting knocked out.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Because a majority decision means you were 1 round, maybe 1 or clean punches away from salvaging a draw.
Oh.
You spend the next month awake at night replaying every single missed jab, every time you let your hands drop for a second, knowing that if you had just pushed 3% harder in the 3rd round, your record wouldn't have a loss on it. It's a psychological torture chamber.
And she is still stuck in that chamber when she takes her next fight, just 2 months later, on November 29, 2008, against Yanina Natalia Acuna. And she loses for a 3rd time. Another 4-round majority decision loss. Let's tally this up. She started at 29. She is now 30 years old. Her professional record is 2 wins and 3 losses, 3 straight defeats. The walls have to be closing in at this point.
This is the exact crucible where 99% of athletic dreams go to die. Put yourself in her locker room after that 3rd loss.
Yeah.
You unwrap your hands. Your knuckles are bruised. Your face is swollen. You've sacrificed time with your family. You've alienated yourself from the traditional expectations of your community. You've pushed your 30-year-old body to the absolute limit.
And the result is a losing record.
Exactly. The whispers in the gym start. The community members might be saying, with love, "Carolina, you tried. It was a noble effort, but maybe it's time to come back to the real world."
Right. I can only imagine the well-meaning aunts and uncles saying, "You've had your fun, Turca. Come work at the business. Settle down."
And no one would have blamed her for walking away. If she quit at 2 and 3, she would still be a formidable woman who tried her hand at pro boxing. The psychological weight of a 3-fight losing skid is crushing.
I can't even imagine.
It makes you question not just your technique, but your fundamental worth as a fighter. Do I have a glass jaw? Am I too slow? Was I arrogant to think I could start at 29?
But she doesn't walk away. And this is the moment, this specific decision in early 2009, where she transcends from being just a boxer to becoming a legend.
The turnaround.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember Yanina Natalia Acuna, the woman who just handed Duer her third straight loss, pushing her to the brink of a failed career?
Yeah.
Duer doesn't go to her promoter and ask for an easy rebound fight. She doesn't ask for a tomato can to pad her stats. She demands a rematch with Acuna.
That is the essence of a champion's mentality right there. She wanted to run straight back into the fire that just burned her.
So April 4, 2009, they run it back. Acuna versus Duer 2, and Duer wins. But it's not a blowout. She wins by a 4-round split decision. And she isn't satisfied with just evening the score. On October 3, 2009, she fights Acuna for a third time, a trilogy fight against a woman she already lost to once.
Right.
And Duer wins the rubber match by another 4-round split decision. We need to dissect this. What is a split decision, and what does it tell us about the nature of these fights?
So a split decision is the most dramatic outcome in boxing. It means 2 judges scored the fight for you, and 1 judge scored the fight for your opponent.
Okay.
It means the fight was so incredibly close, so tightly contested, that the professionals sitting inches from the action couldn't agree on who won. When you have back-to-back split decision victories against the same woman, it tells us that these were absolute wars of attrition.
Blood and guts kind of fights.
Exactly. There was no massive skill gap where Duer just danced around her. She had to stand in the center of the ring and bite down on her mouthpiece.
Yep.
It means she had to stay mentally locked in for every single second of every single round. If you lose focus for 10 seconds and take a clean combination, you lose the round on the judges' scorecards and you lose the fight.
Wow.
To win 2 split decisions requires sheer, unadulterated willpower. She had to analyze her 2008 loss to Acuna, correct her mistakes, and implement a completely new game plan against someone who walked into the ring with the psychological high ground of knowing they had already beaten her.
She exercised her demons in public. And coming out of that Acuna trilogy, Duer is a completely different animal.
The forging of Iron Barbie.
Yes. The self-doubt is gone. She knows she can swim in the deep waters. And those 2 grueling victories spark a massive run. In early 2010, she picks up 2 more unanimous decision wins.
Nice.
And that momentum propels her to a date with destiny. December 17th, 2010. Duer faces Loredana Piazza for the vacant World Boxing Organization, the WBO female super-flyweight title.
Let's contextualize this. The super flyweight division means these women are fighting between 112 and 115 pounds. At that weight class, speed is the primary currency. The punches come in blistering combinations. And now she is fighting for the WBO belt, which is one of the 4 major recognized world championships in boxing, alongside the WBA, WBC, and IBF.
This is the pinnacle of the sport.
The absolute top.
She fights Piazza for 10 rounds. And remember, she's used to fighting 4 or 6 rounds. Now she has to go 10 championship rounds.
That cardio demand is huge.
And she wins.
Huh?
A unanimous decision. The judges all agree. Carolina Duer is the champion of the world.
The historical significance here cannot be overstated. With that win over Piazza, Carolina Duer became the 8th Argentine woman to hold a WBO boxing championship.
Amazing.
That alone guarantees her a page in the history books of a country that treats boxing with a near-religious fervor. But the second milestone is the one that echoes far beyond Argentina.
Yes, tell us.
She became the first Jewish woman to ever hold a WBO crown.
I want to really sit with that for a second. Let's loop back to the beginning of her story. From the halls of the James Nachman Bialik Primary School, from the youth programs at the Maccabi Club, from reading the Torah at the Iona Hebrew Center, to standing in the center of a blood-stained canvas with a massive leather and gold world championship belt strapped around her waist.
It is an unprecedented cultural collision. Think about what that image meant for the Syrian Jewish community in Buenos Aires and for Jewish athletes globally.
Yeah.
Historically, the golden era of Jewish boxing was the 1920s and 30s in America fighters like Benny Leonard and Barney Ross. But a Jewish woman in the 21st century holding a major world title, it was entirely unheard of.
She broke an immense invisible barrier.
She really did. She proved that deep cultural and religious roots do not preclude you from reaching the absolute apex of a combat sport.
And what's wild is that she didn't just win the belt, take the photo op, and cash out. She did become a paper champion.
No, she was active.
She became one of the most active, dominant fighting champions on the planet. If we trace her reign from 2011 to 2012, her schedule was relentlessly punishing.
Most champions defend their belt maybe twice a year if they are active. It takes a massive toll on the body to go through a championship training camp.
Well, Duer defended her title 6 times in 2 years.
6 times? That's absurd.
Let's look at the murderer's row of women she faced to keep that belt. March 2011, she beats Aziza Ubaita by unanimous decision. Just 4 months later, in July 2011, she fights Genji Fleiss, and Duer destroys her. She gets a first-round technical knockout.
A first-round TKO in a world title fight is incredibly rare, especially at 115 pounds. For the listener, a technical knockout means the opponent didn't necessarily get knocked unconscious, but the referee had to step in and physically stop the fight because the opponent was taking too much undefended damage and was in serious danger.
Yep.
To do that in the first round means Duer came out of the corner with absolute murderous intent. She didn't feel the opponent out. She overwhelmed her instantly.
She keeps the momentum going. In November 2011, she gets a third-round TKO against Maria Jose Nunes. Then we hit 2012.
Right.
She defends the belt 3 more times against Milena Tronto, Karina Carlescu, and Mauricio Johanna Portillo. And then at the end of 2012, she caps off this insane run by facing Marcela Cunha and winning another 10-round unanimous decision.
When you look at the totality of that championship run and you analyze her overarching fight record, you get a very clear picture of her physical mechanics and her tactical style.
What does the data show?
Out of her 20 professional wins, 14 came by way of decision and 6 came by knockout. What that tells a boxing analyst is that Duer was primarily an endurance-heavy, tactical volume puncher.
Meaning she wore people down over time rather than relying on one lucky punch.
Precisely. She had the cardiovascular capacity of a marathon runner. To consistently navigate those deep waters and win 10-round unanimous decisions, you have to be able to throw combinations with the same speed and velocity in round 9 as you did in round 1. It requires phenomenal conditioning. She was a ring general. She dictated the pace. But as we saw with the TKO against Fleiss, she wasn't just slapping for points.
No, definitely not.
If her opponent showed weakness, if they dropped their guard, Duer possessed the finishing power and the killer instinct to close the show violently. She was a spectacularly well-rounded champion.
But eventually, she essentially clears out the super-flyweight division. She's beaten everyone they put in front of her, so what does a true competitor do?
This up.
They look for a heavier challenge. In July 2013, she decides to abandon the division she rules and move up in weight to the bantamweight class. Now she is fighting between 115 and 118 pounds.
Right.
She challenges Mayra Alejandra Gomez for the vacant WBO female bantamweight title, and she wins it by a 10-round unanimous decision. She is now a 2-division world champion.
I really want to emphasize how incredibly difficult it is to move up a weight class and instantly win a world title.
Yeah, explain that, because 3 pounds doesn't sound like a lot to the average person.
People hear 3 pounds and think it's nothing, but in the lower weight classes, 3 pounds is a massive percentage of your total body mass. It completely alters the physics of the fight.
Because the women naturally fighting at 118 pounds are cutting down from 125 or 130. They are significantly bigger.
Exactly. They have broader shoulders, thicker necks, and they hit substantially harder. When you move up, you're usually giving up a strength advantage.
Right.
The challenge for Duer was maintaining her super flyweight speed and cardiovascular engine while carrying the extra weight and figuring out how to absorb punches from women who naturally possess more power.
And she did it.
The fact that she seamlessly transitioned up to bantamweight and dominated Gomez for 10 rounds speaks volumes about her physical foundation and her defensive brilliance. She proved her skills scaled up.
She defends that bantamweight title in December 2013 and again in July 2014. She is at the absolute peak of her powers. She is a multi-division world champion, an Argentine icon, and a pioneer for her community.
The top of the mountain.
And right when most fighters would be screaming for the biggest possible payday, looking for cross-promotional mega fights, Duer does something completely unexpected.
Yeah.
She puts the gloves away. After her 2014 title defense, she steps out of the ring to become a mother.
This introduces such a profound human layer to her athletic narrative. The decision to step away during your absolute prime is incredibly rare in combat sports because the fear is that if you leave, you can never get that magic back.
Right.
And we have to talk about the physical reality of what she chose to do. The immense physiological toll of pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum recovery cannot be overstated, especially for an elite athlete.
Because a boxer's body is basically a sports car.
Yeah.
It's finely tuned for very specific functions.
Exactly. It is calibrated for explosive speed, fast twitch muscle recruitment, and most importantly, absorbing concussive impact. During pregnancy, your body undergoes massive structural changes.
Hmm.
Your core muscles separate. Your cardiovascular base completely shifts. Your body releases hormones like relaxin, which literally loosens the ligaments in your pelvis and joints.
Wow.
To undergo those massive biological shifts and then attempt to rebuild that body, not just to look fit, but to return to world-class championship-level fighting conditioning, is a monumental undertaking. It's starting from below zero.
Which makes what happens next one of the most inspiring sequences in modern boxing.
Yeah.
Because here's where it gets really interesting. She didn't just have a child and retire gracefully.
No, she didn't.
After stepping away, after giving birth, after that grueling, agonizing process of rebuilding her core, regaining her cardio, and hardening her bones again, she makes her return.
Yeah.
On August 26, 2016, Carolina Duer steps back through those ropes. She faces a tough Brazilian boxer named Aline Scarinello, and they aren't fighting a tune-up bout. They're fighting for the interim IBF World Bantamweight title.
For clarity, an interim title usually happens when the current champion is injured or unavailable to defend the belt, so the sanctioning body creates an interim belt to keep the division moving.
Okay.
The winner is universally recognized as a world champion and usually guaranteed a unification fight with the full champion later.
Right, so the stakes couldn't be higher. And Duer doesn't just squeak by with a cautious decision. She absolutely dismantles Scarinello.
Yeah.
In the 7th round, Duer unleashes a barrage of strikes. The referee steps in, and Duer wins by technical knockout.
Yeah.
She returns from maternity leave and violently claims the IBF world title.
That outcome is staggering. To return to the professional ring after childbirth is a massive achievement in itself. To return and immediately fight for a world title is extraordinary.
Yeah.
But to win that world title by a late-round technical knockout, that is a definitive, terrifying statement to the rest of the division.
Why specifically the 7th round stoppage? Why is that so impressive to you?
Because a 7th round TKO proves that her physical endurance was completely undiminished. It wasn't a lucky early knockout where she caught Scarinello cold.
Right.
She spent 6 grueling rounds wearing her opponent down, absorbing damage, managing her oxygen, and maintaining intense offensive pressure until Scarinello literally couldn't defend herself anymore.
Incredible.
It proved her punching power was intact, her chin was intact, and her killer instinct was as sharp as ever. It completely obliterates any archaic narrative that motherhood somehow softens a fighter's edge. For Duer, it seemingly only sharpened her resolve. She became more dangerous.
She was later elevated to the full IBF champion. And from there, we enter the latter arch of her career, which becomes a testament to unbelievable longevity.
Yeah, the later years.
Now, she doesn't stay undefeated forever. Boxing always exacts its toll. She loses the IBF title in her first defense in August 2017 to Maria Cecilia Roman by a split decision. They run it back a year later in August 2018, and Roman wins another split decision.
Notice the recurring theme here. Even when she loses by split decisions.
Yeah, good point.
She is never being blown out of the water. She is always incredibly competitive, always making the judges argue over who actually won.
Exactly. And she just keeps fighting.
Yeah.
Most fighters would lose those 2 title fights and say, I'm 40 years old now. I won titles in multiple divisions. I have a child. I'm done.
Hang up the gloves.
Not Duer. In October 2019, she travels to enemy territory in Mexico to fight Mariana Juarez for the WBC bantamweight title. She loses a unanimous decision, but goes all 10 rounds.
Still going the distance.
In November 2019, she fights to a 10-round draw against Marianela Soledad Ramirez. She picks up a win in August 2021. And then we hit the most recent fight listed on her record. April 29, 2023, she fought Gabriela Bouvier for the vacant interim WBC female super bantamweight silver title.
What weight class was that?
Super bantamweight. So she's moved up again, fighting between 118 and 122 pounds.
Wow.
She loses a hard-fought 10-round split decision. But I want to remind the listener of her birth date, August 1978. In April 2023, Carolina Duer was 44 years old.
That's just wild.
44 years old, stepping into a professional boxing ring, moving up another weight class, and going 10 rounds for a WBC title.
It is a phenomenal testament to her absolute passion for the craft of boxing. Think about the timeline. She turned pro in 2007 at age 29 when everyone told her it was too late.
Yeah.
16 years later, she is still fighting at a championship level. Even in her final recorded bouts, she wasn't taking exhibition matches or fighting novices. She was fighting 10-round title eliminators against world-class contenders.
Right.
And she was losing by split decisions, which means at 44, she was still technically and physically capable of outboxing women a decade younger than her for large portions of a fight.
It's unbelievable.
It shows an athlete who was not solely motivated by the vanity of holding belts, but by the pure, intrinsic challenge of testing her absolute physical and mental limits against the very best in the world, over and over again.
And as if conquering the boxing world and rewriting the rules of athletic aging wasn't enough, Duer also managed to carve out a completely unique space for herself outside the ring.
Let's talk about the television stuff.
Yes. Let's look at her expansion into media and television, because Turca was building her brand in some truly wild, unexpected ways. In 2013, right in the middle of her WBO championship reign, she signs up for a reality TV show in Argentina called Celebrity Splash.
Oh my goodness.
Now, if you aren't familiar with this global franchise, it is a show that literally teaches celebrities the art of high diving into an Olympic pool.
That's amazing.
She was a contestant, and she made it to round 2, part 3, before being eliminated.
You have to laugh at the sheer absurdity of the pivot there.
Right, from dodging left hooks to trying to execute a reverse pike off a 10-meter platform.
It's brilliant, though. From a brand-building perspective, it is a fascinating and highly effective move. Participating in a mainstream, lighthearted reality show like Celebrity Splash, while she was actively defending her brutal, violent boxing titles, helped transition her. Well, she went from being just a famous athlete known strictly to hardcore boxing purists into a broader mainstream cultural figure in Argentine living rooms. It humanized her.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It allowed the public to see the Iron Barbie in a completely different, vulnerable context. She was learning a new skill, facing a completely different kind of fear, the fear of heights and water, and participating in family entertainment. It expanded her demographic exponentially.
And she didn't just stay in front of the camera as a reality contestant. She moved behind the microphone. In 2014, Duer began to announce boxing on national public television in Argentina. She literally became the broadcast voice of the sport.
Which is a transition that raises an important question about the life cycle of professional athletes. How do you stay connected to the sport that has defined your entire identity when you know you can't fight forever?
Like, you have to find a new avenue.
Moving to the announcer's desk is the smartest play you can make. And a fighter of her specific caliber brings an incredibly intimate, visceral knowledge of the ring to the broadcast.
Because she isn't just reciting stats. She knows exactly what the fighters are feeling.
Exactly. When she sits ringside and watches two fighters exchange blows, she isn't just describing the action for the audience. She understands the exact cardiovascular strain the fighter in the blue corner is feeling in round 8.
Yeah.
She recognizes the subtle tactical adjustments a fighter makes when their lead hand gets tired. She knows the psychology of suffering a deep cut over the eye or the sheer panic of being backed against the ropes by a heavier puncher.
She lived it.
It allows her to translate the violent reality of the sport to the audience at home in a way a traditional broadcaster never could. It built her a sustainable post-fighting career while cementing her authority as a premier voice in Latin American boxing.
And she clearly caught the television bug, because the list of her appearances just keeps going. In 2014, she appeared on an intense physical competition show called Combat, acting as a trainer and mentor for the Green Team.
Giving back.
And even more recently, in 2023, the exact same year she was still fighting for a WBC silver title at age 44, she appeared as a contestant on the Challenge Argentina, El Desafío, though she was the first eliminated there.
When you synthesize all of this media presence alongside her boxing record, you start to see a much broader, much more fascinating portrait of Carolina Duer.
Yeah, it's not just about fighting.
She isn't just a boxer. She is a multifaceted entertainer, a coach, a broadcaster, and a deeply curious public personality who continuously seeks out new arenas to test herself.
Exactly.
Whether she's coaching a team of young athletes on Combat, analyzing a championship bout on national television, or subjecting herself to the physical obstacle courses of the Challenge, she demonstrates a relentless, insatiable desire to push beyond her comfort zone.
It's that same drive.
It's the exact same psychological profile that allowed her to walk into a boxing gym at 29 years old. She fundamentally refuses to be defined by a single label.
So we have covered a massive amount of ground here today. We've explored the rich cultural foundations of her Syrian Jewish upbringing. We dissected the rocky, agonizing start to her pro career and those 3 devastating early losses.
The crucible.
We tracked her championship glory across the super-flyweight and bantamweight divisions. We marveled at her incredible post-maternity knockout return, her unbelievable longevity fighting into her mid-40s, and her expansion into a beloved television personality. Looking at the totality of the life and career of Carolina Raquel Duer, what is the ultimate takeaway?
The ultimate takeaway is that Carolina Duer is a living, breathing masterclass in defying expectations.
Yeah.
Every single time the prevailing narrative, the sports science, or the cultural norms suggested she should fail, she simply rewrote the script. She successfully balanced distinct, deeply rooted cultural identities while dominating a space that is almost never associated with her background. She proved that the path to absolute greatness is rarely, if ever, a straight line. You can start your professional athletic career at 29 years old. You can lose 3 consecutive fights in your first year.
Which would break most people.
It would. You can step away from your physical prime to start a family, and you can still return to become a multi-weight world champion, a media star, and a historic icon. Her legacy is undeniable proof that sheer resilience, adaptability, and an irrational belief in yourself are infinitely more valuable than following society's conventional timelines.
That is incredibly powerful. I want to turn this directly to you, the listener. Take a moment and think about your own life, your own goals, and the arbitrary timelines you might be imposing on yourself right now.
Yeah, think about that.
How often have you looked at a dream, a career pivot, a new language you wanted to learn, or a physical challenge you wanted to undertake and thought, I'm too old, or it's too late for me to start, or people from my background don't do things like that? Carolina Duer's story completely and utterly shatters those excuses.
It absolutely dismantles them, and I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over today.
Let's hear it.
If a woman can step into a professional boxing ring for the very first time at 29 years old, suffer 3 agonizing defeats in a row right at the beginning, take time off to have a child, and still conquer the world to become a multi-division world champion and a historic pioneer for her community, what arbitrary, it's too late for me narrative in your own life is completely fundamentally false?
Wow.
What could you achieve if you stopped looking at the calendar and just stepped into the ring?
What a profound question to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the extraordinary, expectation-defying life of La Turca, Carolina Duer. Keep questioning those timelines, keep discovering the incredible stories hidden in the margins of history, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.